Reserve. The root of all our evil, it begins with the Federal Reserve. Hey, yeah, well, let's go back in time when everybody was so proud of a man.
I'm Tommy Salmons. This is Year Zero. Today, James Yohe joins me. James is good friends with Michael Harris, and Michael introduced me to James to chat about Hans Hermann Hoppe. James Yohe is a economics professor and a former student of Hoppe at UNLV. So I asked James to come on and kind of give some insight as to his experiences with Hans and what kind of professor Hoppe was, and also how absolutely ahead of his time Hoppe was, and what he has been trying to accomplish for the last 25 years with his writings, his theory, his philosophy. I think this will be quite enjoyable, and given there is so much information, false information in many cases about Hoppe, I thought this would be a really, really good episode to record, and I think you'll all enjoy it. RyanBunting.com for all of your graphic design needs. Go to RyanBunting.com. Ryan Bunting is a great libertarian and a great anarcho-capitalist. He's also a great graphic designer. RyanBunting.com. That's where I got my logo for my podcast. Ryan has also started his own business, and he is working in logistics and administration. He's teaching people how to use tech more effectively and efficiently in order to earn money. And we will be doing a live stream with Ryan here before the end of the month in order to help people better serve themselves and be better with tech so that they can create a small business or improve their small business going forward. So stay tuned for that. The announcement's coming out. I think we have a tentative date, but we are going to make sure that everything's in order, and I will make that announcement whenever it is proper. Go to the libertarianinstitute.org. The libertarianinstitute.org is where you can find my podcast, Patrick McFarland, Keith Knight, Scott Horton, all of us there at the libertarianinstitute.org. And there's a lot of writers there. We're doing a lot of work there. We're really trying to get information out for you and be the best we can as far as helping libertarians weave their way through these troubling times. So go to the libertarianinstitute.org and keep track of all of your favorite podcasts and writers at the libertarianinstitute.org. Thank you, Tom Burton, for the music. Enjoy the show. All right, I am here with James Yohe. How are you doing, sir?
Good, Tommy. Good, very good.
Michael Harris introduced us, and I was really appreciative of that. He's one of my favorite guests to have on. I have Michael Harris on maybe once or twice a year for the last few years. So
the guy went to school with him.
Yeah, I really enjoy him, and a lot of my listeners enjoy him. They're like, there's nothing like a salty Texas attorney. So he's a lot of fun.
That he is.
He's a lot of fun to talk with. But introduce yourself for everybody that's unaware of who you are. This is the first time you've been on the podcast, so it'd be good for everybody to kind of get an introduction of who you are.
Okay. My name is James Yohe. I am originally a Westerner. I was transplanted in the South now, and I like it. What would be of interest to the people on the podcast is I was in the service. I got out. I was a nuclear power plant operator, and I originally wanted to go to UCLA and major in economics, and I had a pit stop back home at UNLV, and I just randomly selected an economics course, and it happened to be taught by Hans Hoppe. And once I was in that class, I was hooked. I found out everyone else didn't think this way, and that was the place for me. And while I was there, I got to take classes from Murray Rothbard, Hans Hoppe, Frank Beckwith, David Beto. Became interested in Austrian economics, and would go to Mises U and a lot of the Mises events. And after that, decided I wanted to go to grad school. Went to Auburn University, where I got my master's and my PhD. And I was fortunate enough to have Hans Hoppe on my dissertation committee. I think I'm the only US student to have that. And I don't know if he's done any in Europe since then. And since then, I've been a banker, which I know is a bad word, but I had to, my wife got pregnant while I was starting my dissertation, so I had to get a job. Did that for a few years, finished my dissertation, and I teach economics out at Gaston State Community College. I teach economics, business classes, and I've written for LouRockwell.com, Mises.org. I have an article in Property, Freedom, and Society, Hans Hermann Hoppe's Festschrift, and a co-written article in the Journal of, I always have to make sure I get this one straight. The Journal of, now I can't remember. That's horrible. I'll remember it later. And a couple other things.
Yeah. Okay. And one of the questions I've always had for like students of the Austrian School of Economics that turn out to be college professors like Bob Murphy, yourself, like when you're going for your master's and when you're going through these courses, is it difficult to get through as an Austrian thinker?
From my own personal experience, yes, because you're getting two educations. You don't go somewhere and get a PhD in Austrian economics.
Right.
You're taking the mainstream stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Auburn had some advantages in that you had some libertarian leaning people, free market people, but they're not teaching Austrian economics. You get that. I was blessed enough to be able to go to UNLV. And then at Auburn, you have people like Dr. Mark Thornton, Professor Garrison was there while I was still there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the Mises Institute where you kind of learn and then reading on your own.
Mm-hmm.
This was back before podcasts and all these other good things.
Right.
The good things you podcast guys do. And you have to learn it on your own.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of outed as an Austrian from the beginning. I never tried to cover it up. So you have problems there.
Mm.
But yeah, I think it's a lot more difficult to do it that way.
Yeah.
Than if you were to say, just go get your PhD and then find out about Austrian economics later.
Okay.
But then you're going to have other issues.
Yeah. Yeah. So were you libertarian leaning prior to going to UNLV?
Yes and no. I would probably describe myself as a far right Reaganite. Before I heard of libertarianism, I always knew what government shouldn't do, but I never really thought about what government should do.
Right.
I knew almost everything they did was wrong or didn't work.
So you were like more of like a Chicago school guy, Milton Friedman type?
On economics, no, not at all. Before I met Hoppe, I had a course while I was in the service with a monetarist. And, we learned Keynesianism, we learned monetarism. I pretty much came to the conclusion that they just made that stuff up. I said, how do you know that this is true, right? You could go and watch the Friedmanite and he'll say, oh, prices are flexible, right? And then you see a Keynesian, he says, no, prices are inflexible in the downward direction. If something like that were true, then we could, prove it, right?
Central planning wouldn't be central planning wouldn't be a
Right.
pain in the ass, right?
Well,
Central
I mean,
planning wouldn't destroy economies if you could
yeah,
decide ahead of time
right,
what the trends were going to be.
right. But I mean, I just kind of got the impression that they were just making it up.
Yeah.
And then I was blessed enough to just randomly pick Hoppe's class. It was at the right time at the right
Yeah.
place, and that just completely confirmed everything that I'd sort of thought.
Yeah.
And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's already a wheel, a car, and a bunch of people driving it.
Yeah. So that's why we're here. We're going to talk about Hoppe. So there's a lot of argument in the libertarian space at the moment, especially Liberty Twitter. If you ever go on Liberty Twitter, just be prepared, like, because you're going to see cancer flying around like just everywhere. And
I've never been on Liberty Twitter.
I wouldn't advise it. Unless you just want to see the most abysmal fighting, just personal attacks and useless fighting that accomplishes absolutely nothing. I wouldn't advise that to be the place where you go hang out.
Sounds like the Libertarian Party to me.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And there are people that that make their voices heard in this space, like Stephan Kinsella, Tom Woods. So there are names around there that throw their weight around in this space, and luckily they're not involved in the worst of it. But so
I'll have to make fun of Stephan for wasting his time there.
Well, in his defense, the one thing he would not waste his time doing is driving 2 hours from Houston to my house for a crawfish boil, because he said driving 2 hours to hang out with libertarians is not my idea of fun. So
Depends on the libertarian. Depends.
But yeah,
I live a little further, and I like crawfish. I'll drive out there.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have one this year too. We're gonna do the crawfish boil this year too. But so yeah, so there's a lot of mudslinging that goes around to people that have adopted more of the Hoppian idea of libertarianism and the libertarian philosophy. So, I mean, without getting into details, because I just think a lot of it's just ridiculous. When you first discovered Hoppe, what was it like? Like, was this just like mind altering, or did it take you some time to really figure out like what he was on to?
Oh, the first class was mind altering.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, when you're in a classroom with people like Rothbard and Hoppe, I mean, almost immediately you realize that this is something completely different. That these people are, smarter, more well thought out, better researched. I mean, than anything that you've been exposed to, especially if you're going to a place like UNLV. But you realize that this is something special. From the moment I got in that class and heard his first lecture, I realized that this was not like anything I'd ever been in. These people think about these things. It's not just someone getting up in front of you and telling you something they read in a book. These guys are thinkers,
yeah,
original thinkers, and good at it. And they, they're just something completely different from what you normally get at a university, especially on that level, but on any level that I've ever been on. Rothbard knew so much. It was unbelievable. I'd never been around anyone that knew as much as he did, or as much as Hoppe did, or had, were doing original thinkings. That they weren't just repeating someone else or taking something that some other person had said and applying it to a different case, which is what you would mostly get at a university. I'm taking XYZ and I'm applying it to A, B, and C now instead of just that, and the way that they, the methodology is the important part. Like I said before, I listened to the Freemanists, the monetarists, I listened to the Keynesians, I listened to the stuff, and I said, they made it up. They just made it up. Now, not all of it's made up, and we could go in a whole 5 episodes probably on what's made up and what's not.
Right.
But a lot of it's made up. We talked about prices, right? Are prices flexible? Are they inflexible in the downward direction? Are they sticky? I mean, how many angels can dance on the head of a pin? I mean, I guess I might care. I don't know.
Right.
But I care, if I'm an economist, I care about real things.
Right.
I care about reality. And I care about being able to recognize truthful propositions and using truthful theory and applying it to reality and using it to solve problems or prevent errors, rather than trying to make the world in this image that it doesn't fit, which is what you get with most mainstream economics. You're trying to put it into a little model. So here, it kind of fits this. Now go manipulate it.
Yeah.
And you realize that there's truth out there, and there's a way to discover it, rather than to try and predict or verify, falsify some hypothesis and move on to the next one. But
whenever I talk to people that are more along the Hoppe thought process, and that are really studying Hoppe here recently, especially, that's what they the argument they make. My buddy Pete Quinones, I could actually just basically quote him in his argumentation with libertarians at this point in time, is that a lot of you people are trying to live in Ancapistan in your head, and you have no direction as far as praxis goes. You don't know how to utilize the knowledge that you've obtained through libertarian philosophy and the theory, and implement it into real life. And he feels, I think I can say this pretty fairly, that he feels that Hoppe's writing actually does more for implementation of libertarian philosophy into real life than most other writers out there.
I think without a doubt. I learned a lot about life from Hoppe, and you see people, you see people do things. You're like, why are they doing that? A lot of what you learn in Austrian economics, and a lot of what I learned from Hoppe helped to explain that,
right,
and to make sense of it. They have perverse goals, or they do whatever, but this is why they're doing it. They're using scarce means in accordance with a perceived causality to accomplish a given end. Now that end might not be what they say it is. They could be misapplying means to accomplish the end that they state. And then, of course, that gets into looking at what governments do, right?
Right. From
the time I started to learn about economics up till now, every time you see a problem arise and you see our government try and provide a solution to it, it's wrong. It's clearly wrong. It's not going to work. It's either going to amplify the problem or cause further problems on down the line that are worse than the one they're trying to fix. Why do they do that? There's the Mises sort of hypothesis, and that is that we should not imply bad motives to them, but that just makes them fools. If you say, no, they're not that dumb, and I don't think that they are.
Yeah.
I don't think that, Biden might be as dumb as people say he is, but And her Harris is dumber than anyone thinks she is. But if anybody thinks they're in charge, God bless them. But the people who are actually making these decisions, I don't think they're that dumb.
Yeah.
I think that they have ulterior motives, and that they're pretty good at getting what they want. So
I don't. Yeah, it took me a long time. I'd say it took me a couple of years to get from the U.S. government is evil overseas and incompetent at abroad. I mean,
yeah.
incompetent at home. Like like I thought that for a long time, and then I was like, wait, like why would the same people be? Why wouldn't they just be evil here too? Because they're only acting in their own best interest. They're acting to line their pockets, to fund their coffers, right? Like they're not interested in the American people. And if their actions, hurt you, it's not unintended consequences. It's like, who cares? They don't care.
No, they don't.
So
that
was a hard thing for me to wrap my head around, though, because for years I went around saying, oh, these people are economically incompetent. But no, I don't think they are. I think they just don't care. I think they're doing what is in their best interest.
Yeah. And it's ridiculous to think that they care. I mean, as I tell my students all the time, I'm like, how many of you know Donald Trump, or how many of you know Joe Biden? Nobody knows them. You couldn't even talk to them. They'd shoot you, right? If you went up, hey, Mr. Biden, I want to ask you a question. You'd probably get jumped on. That'd be the nicest thing they did to you. But to think that some guy you don't even know, doesn't even know you exist, right? If I went to Joe Biden, they said, oh, hey, Tommy Salmons? And he'd say, who the f is Tommy Salmons?
Yeah.
Or who's James Yohe? Who the hell is he? Oh, he lives in Gadsden. If you said he lived in Gadsden, he'd probably say, God bless you. Think you sneezed or something. He doesn't know where Gadsden is. How does he know what's good for Gadsden or James Yohe or Tommy Salmons or anyone else? And why the hell would he care? It's absurd to think that he would care.
Right.
And possess the knowledge necessary to make your life better. He doesn't even know you exist.
Yeah. Well, and then you have this brings us to an old Hoppe argument that monarchy is better than democracy, right? Because their incentives are only for as long as they can hold public office. Their incentives don't exist, so they don't care what the repercussions are of whatever policies that they're passing, 10 years down the road, because they're not going to be there. They're not going to see the repercussions come through. And so there's this argument, and I know some people try to make it out that Hoppe was a monarchist, which is not the case.
No.
I mean, that's
No,
easy to see. But he made an argument that monarchy is better than democracy due to the incentive structure and the way that legacies carry out. Like, you're taking ownership of this political system if you're a monarch. If you're in a democracy, like, this is just, it's changing so often. You're just trying to get as much benefit for yourself in this short period of time. Right.
Because you don't care what's left for the next guy. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And so did he have these thoughts at that time? Was it 25 years ago when you were in college? Was he talking about these things at that time?
A bit, yeah. I think that whole argument, the one that you just discussed, I think a lot of that came. Stefan Kinsella has a nice little short blurb on fusionism, and I don't have the email, just maybe I'll give it to you. But libertarians always try to make sort of alliances with people. Rothbard started off making an alliance with the left, and then and then it was the paleo and the Canaanites and that. But oh gosh, now I lost track of what I was thinking of because the phone rang. But I think that a lot of that particular view came from an association he had with Eric von Kuhnelt-Levine. and he had sort of met Kunal Ladin about the time I was there, if I remember correctly. And when I first read that, I thought it was amazing. I actually have applied it to corporate governance in a paper in his Festschrift that Scott Kajar and I wrote together. But yeah, but he's not a monarchist. He's an anarcho-capitalist. And if anybody says anything different other than him, it's not true. He's not a monarchist.
I'm pretty certain he's tried to make it clear that I'm not a monarchist. I just think that it is a better form of governance than what we have today.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's kind of his argument.
Right. I mean, one, you get the time preference thing, right? If you're a democratic ruler, you got to get what you can get while you're there.
Right.
And anything left over goes to your enemies or competitors or someone else.
Right.
You can't take and capital and benefit from the capital value of the realm. And that's the value of the capital goods, the land, the labor, and all of the other factors of production that go inside of your realm. Anything you leave over, somebody else gets, and you can't pass it on to your son. In a monarch, you can pass these things on, and you don't want to take as much as possible in the short run and leave nothing in the long run for yourself later on, or your family after you, or whoever you choose to take over for you. I find it hard to think that could be wrong.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, I love his idea or his thought on 10,000 Liechtensteins, right? Because you look at the way that the United States is, and like he talks about why couldn't you secede down to the individual level, right? And so and you look at what a monarchy is. Okay, so let's say I own a large piece of property. Let's say I own like 300 acres, and I give people the permission to come live on my property and to farm my property, and they pay me rent, right? Which could be taxes, or whatever, however you want to, call it. Then you're basically living in a small monarchy of some sort. So when you think about the 10,000 Liechtensteins, you're talking about reducing the size of governance down to like the smallest, possible unit at, that's sustainable. And I just kind of like that idea that he brought forward with that.
Right. He's taken that to almost kind of a new level now. I don't know if you saw his 2021 PFS speech, but he sort of almost rediscovered a guy named Ludwig von Haller, and his sort of a view of natural elites, which Hans has written on earlier. He's got a pamphlet on that, and that I mean that the state originates in sort of good things, not. And it's kind of an odd use of the word, because I always used to hear when, we as libertarians, we'd say, well, government and the state, right? And there's some people who would say, oh, the state is the coercive actor there, that we need governance in the sense that we need decisions to be made regarding property or who, right, things like that, but that the state's sort of the bad thing. I've always heard people say, oh, we need government, but we don't need the state. Well, Hans sort of uses these terms in a different way when he talks about the state. He's saying that the state arose out of sort of voluntary contracts that this is what Haller says anyway, and Hans is talking about Haller. Professor Hoppe, excuse me, should call him Hans. Professor Hoppe is talking about Haller in that that sort of these natural relationships exist between people in the form of an employer and an employee, a renter and the landlord, things like this, and that those types of relationships are natural. Right, it's when we bring in this coercive nature of, governments, I guess is what you're going to call it there. That's when these things get perverted. And I think in his other article that we mentioned earlier about what should be done, I think one of the beautiful parts there is he applies the division of labor and specialization to private defense rather than having a monopolist. And then of course, competition results in the lowest price, the best quality, etc., versus a monopolist. And it just bothers me that someone would have any kind of a real problem with that. I don't know why people would think that we need someone to coercively rule us. I just have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know where the all the insults of Hoppe come from. I don't know if it's misunderstanding the way that he approaches his arguments, or one of the things Michael Harris always says is he was very proud of his German heritage. Maybe people take that the wrong way, and so I'm not real certain where it comes from. I haven't read enough to find anything that I feel is out of place. It doesn't seem like he's attacking people. Another thing I've noticed that a lot of people tend to do is they tend to lump the thinker along with those that have read the thinker. Yeah. So if you have like a Chris Cantwell that will pervert, Hoppe's thought and what Hoppe wrote, and will pervert it into a white nationalist kind of ideology, then they think that Hoppe was the one who influenced his ideology, when it's probably his perverse incentives as well as reading Hoppe. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are other things going on in this guy's mind than just Hoppe.
Right.
Or some people like have issues with like a Curtis Yarvin, who kind of he considers himself, I think, like from everything I can tell, he considers himself more of a monarchist, and he gets some of these ideas from Hoppe, which is obvious in some of his writings. And he was a libertarian at one time, but I don't think you can attribute his entirety of thinking to Hoppe when he's quoting, hundreds of other authors that he's read as well, So I think Hoppe unfortunately gets lumped in with some of these guys unfairly because they reference him in certain instances. And a lot of times they're referencing him whenever they're disputing libertarianism. But that was one thing that Hoppe has spent his life doing, and we were talking about prior to getting on here and recording. It was one of the things that Hoppe's been doing for as long as you've known of him is finding the flaws in libertarian thought and trying to correct those flaws and bring it into a scenario where it can be utilized in the real world.
Yeah, I think so. And then going back to your point, I think a lot of the reason that people do misunderstand, you said he's proud of his German heritage. I didn't know him before he met Rothbard. I only met Dr. Hoppe after I went to school there. But I remember somewhere, and I'm trying to remember if it was a speech or in a book. I think it was a speech at the PFS, that when he came over here, he was conscious about being German, right? And everybody thinking he was a Nazi and all these other things. And Rothbard actually talked to him and said, you should be proud of your German heritage. There's nothing wrong with being German. You shouldn't be ashamed of it. You shouldn't cover it up or try and deny it or anything. I mean, I'm from we're American, there's 1770, but I'm from German background. What's wrong with being German?
Right.
And he's got the accent. But all of these people want to attack him on that and things like that. I mean, that's just it's ad hominem. It's garbage. he's not, I mean, he's the way that he is, and we all are.
Yeah.
So to criticize him or whatever his thought based on what you think about his personality, when most of these people that criticize him don't even know him, is ridiculous. It's absurd. Whenever I read this stuff, if I'm on, like, I've never been on the Twitter page, but you know, if I'm on something and someone says, "Oh, Han's a Nazi," blah blah blah, I'm like, "That you didn't even know the guy."
Right.
You know, you ever sit down and have a beer with him? One of the most fun times I've ever had in my life, and we used to do it once a week. Once a week, we would meet with him. We had called it the Political Economy Club. You know, 99.99% of the people in the world would listen to this and think, "What a bunch of geeks." We'd sit around, we'd drink beer and eat and talk about economics, philosophy. I mean, I learned more there than I probably learned in all of the schooling I went to, you know. And we had and Hans is a very, believe it or not, he's a very tolerant guy. He would let people into these meetings, which he attended every week. And we'd go about 8 o'clock, but sometimes we wouldn't leave there till 2 a.m. And he would let people in there who didn't agree with him or he didn't agree with, and he would let them talk. And, you know, as long as you stayed within reasonable margins, you didn't have a problem with them, whether you agree with them or not.
Yeah.
I can just tell you without a doubt that he did more for me and more for all the other students that had him than any professor I've ever heard of doing for their students. His time was yours. If you went in there and talked to him, he never rushed you out. If you said something and maybe it was stupid, he didn't say, "Oh, yeah, you are so stupid. You should never be in my presence." You know, he would argue with you. Now, he has certain things. He said, "I'll never tell you something more than twice, because if I tell you more than twice, you're never going to get it anyway, and not waste your time with it," which seems reasonable to me. But I never met a professor that did more for his students. We would give speeches, and one time we had someone back out, and we went to him in the last minute and said, "He just got backed out, man. Could you do something for us?" He went and gave us a brand new speech that he was preparing for something else. Went out and gave it to us first. You know, all these things that they say about him personally are wrong. They're not true. He's not a Nazi. He's not some Teutonic German guy who dismisses everybody or whatever you want to say about him. Yeah. He's a genuine guy. I mean, we all have our faults, and probably more than he does.
Yeah.
But you know, I never heard of anybody doing what he did for us, ever.
There's a I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a photo going around of Hans sitting with a little toy helicopter.
Yeah, I was there when it was picked.
Okay, wasn't it Michael Malice that gave it to him?
Yeah. It was a joke.
Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of the people that are the Pinochet did nothing wrong kind of fellows want to like cling on to Hans' thought process and use him as an example. Yeah. And I thought that was really hilarious. It kind of showed like a lighter side to him, like this kind of sense of humor. Like, yeah, I can laugh at all this crap.
Yeah, I don't want to call it self-deprecating, but yeah, that's sort of what it was. It was just like, oh yeah, these guys think I'm a helicopter guy or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, they think I'm a helicopter guy. You know, hey, he smiles with mouths or whatever. Yeah, it was absurd.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
that's what these guys have to get on him. A stupid picture where he's being self-deprecating. You know, the fact that he has a German accent. The fact that, you know, I mean, who wants to sit there and listen to some nut job scream at you about something? I wouldn't do it either.
Yeah.
Say, hey, look, I'm Hans Hoppe. Who the hell are you? Go away.
Right.
You know, I'll talk to you once, I'll talk to you twice, but after that, you know, you're gonna think what you think and go think it. I don't want to participate.
Right.
But
what was the, I guess, what was a moment that sticks out as like one of the most profound learning experiences with him? Like when you're sitting around drinking beer with him, like when I'm sure there were times where he would just kind of offhanded say something and it would kind of blow your mind.
Gosh. Well, I could just, the most influential thing that ever happened to me, involving Dr. Hoppe was there was a hotel casino in Las Vegas, the Frontier, and they'd been on strike for years. I mean, all the people who had jobs there, they got jobs at other strip hotels, and the union was hiring protesters. So, and they were obnoxious. So we would go every year and we would hold a strike break meeting at the Frontier. And we would go in there, we'd go to the restaurant, we'd do our meeting in the Frontier. And it was the first meeting I'd ever had. I was in the class. He mentioned the Political Economy Club. I'm sorry about that. And he said, you should go to this. So I went, and I got there early because I was so excited about the meeting. And I don't know how to mute this stupid phone. I think I just might have to unplug it. But he came up to me and he said, oh, so, are you enjoying this class? I said, yeah. And he said, what do you know about libertarianism? And I said, not much. I used to think they were just kind of left-wing lunatics. And he said, well, what do you think the government should do? What do you think the government is good at? I didn't have an answer from him. From that moment on, I was an anarchist.
Yeah.
One question I couldn't answer, but just sitting and listening to him talk about, method and epistemology was just mind blowing. I came from before, as I said, these guys, mainstream economists just make it up. And they literally do. They don't believe in the truth. They don't believe in axioms or apodictically true propositions. They think that you can, come up with assumptions and form a testable hypothesis. And if you go out and find a data set that matches, you're in the game until you find one that contradicts it. Friedman says that, positive science is prediction, and that provides meaningful predictions, i.e. not truistic. He says that science is just prediction, and that the underlying theory to get you to this hypothesis doesn't have to be true. And these things aren't. They're not true. A lot of them that they use in those theories. So to me, when he sat down and laid out praxeology to me, that blew my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, there's more than a wheel here. They've already got the whole thing. I don't need to look anywhere else. I don't need to go to UCLA. I don't need to go to Harvard. I don't need to go wherever I could get into. I found out where I was. And those were the things that kind of, I think, blew my mind the most. The monarchy stuff, that was interesting. But yeah, I would say just the epistemology and the fact that, with one question, maybe an anarchist.
Yeah.
And a libertarian.
Right. Well, and that let's talk a little bit about the problems that Hans was trying to solve with his thought process, because he saw issues with libertarianism. It was not like he just like you said, he and Rothbard were thinkers. They obviously they had an ideology or a philosophy that they rooted themselves in and used as the principle or the base for their thought, but they were thinking through issues. And it seems like a lot of people nowadays think that all the thought is over, that all the problems are done. And I would argue that, someone like Hoppe is probably still working through a lot of things, because the world doesn't stop turning and new problems don't stop arising.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of things to get through.
Yeah, I think if you look at just pure libertarianism now, right? We're talking about non-aggression principle, all this other stuff. Rothbard sort of gave us a skeleton. I think Hans is putting flesh on it. And Hans is taking that skeleton and making it into a functioning, I don't want to call it an organism because I don't like analogies, but a functioning thing, something that we can use to go out and change the world, to understand the world better than what we had with just Rothbard. He's taken and he's adding meat to that skeleton that Rothbard gave us that we call libertarianism or anarcho-capitalism. The other great thing I think he's doing is he's recognized sort of a flaw, and that is faith and morality. Rothbard would give us, what you sort of, to put it simply, what you cannot and can use force against another person for. Mm-hmm. And that leaves a big array of things inside of it that are potential under the non-aggression principle and libertarianism. But that's not a way to live. So you cannot live by libertarianism. And I think that people who try to do make a lot of mistakes. Now, take drug use, right? No one, and it's clear that's true. There's no doubt about it. You own your body. You own whatever you've legitimately acquired that could be drugs, right? And you have a right to put that into your body, not to put it into your body, but to put it into your body and not have someone come and use force against you to stop you or make you take more or less.
Right.
Okay. But of course, that is not a way to live, right? How much drugs should I take, right? Let's say it's heroin. I've never seen heroin, but, should I inject a pound of heroin into my arm? I'd die, I think. I've never been around it, but I'm pretty sure
you would die before you got to a pound, yes.
I'm pretty sure a pound would kill me.
Yeah.
Okay?
Without a doubt. Couple of times.
1 cc? I don't know, right? I mean, I don't know the answer to that. Should I?
So much of the focus of my podcast is to point out abuses of power and how bad things have gotten and the direction in which we're heading as a society. And it can be a real black pill. I've partnered up with Richard Grove to offer my listeners an opportunity to sign up to his Autonomy Course. The Autonomy Course is designed for people looking for solutions, people that want to shape their own future, people that are not willing to be at the behest of large corporations or the United States government or the banking system. The Autonomy Course is designed for those of you who wish to have complete control of the reins of your life, who are looking to be successful, that to thrive and not just survive, to provide for your family by utilizing your existing skills and learning how to market and sell those skills in order to be your own boss, or learn new skills in order to leverage that into a new career opportunity. So if there's a job out there you've been trying to get or you've been wishing you could get, but you just don't have the skills for it, the Autonomy Course is the place for you to start, to learn how to land that position, to learn how to market yourself better, to gain confidence, and to be surrounded by a community of like-minded people that will encourage you and help you along the way. So use my affiliate links and go check out the Autonomy Course. It could be right for you.
Should I lie? Right? Should I break promises, right? I can break a promise, right? Let's say I promised to be on here at 1:00 and something came out, and I'm glad I didn't because I'm enjoying it. But, something came up better for me. And I said, Tommy, I'll get him next time or something.
Right.
You don't mind me calling him Tommy, by the way, should I ask?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Should I go on Tommy's show or should I, go off and I like to fish. Go fish, right? The fish are biting. I'm gonna go bite. I'm gonna go catch fish, man. I'll catch Tommy later, right? Should I do that? Libertarians say, Nobody can beat you up for doing it.
Right.
But is it right? And it's not. And Hoppe is bringing in more than just this ethical framework of what you can do and not do, you use force against somebody for. And I think this is a brilliant insight, because the world doesn't function because of the state. The world doesn't get to be a better place because of violence or the threat of violence. We know all that.
Yeah.
What does make it a better place? Imagine we had a libertarian society where, if you stole from someone, you had a private police, they'd catch you, they make you pay 2 times back or 3 times back, depending if you're a Rothbardian or a Consolian, back to the owner, right? Could the world function if you had this libertarian society, yet people on their own didn't think stealing was wrong? There's a convenience store down the street from my work. There's a nice little lady who works there. I know for a fact, I'm not huge or anything, I'm 6'1", I weigh about 200 pounds. I know for a fact I could walk in there, grab 2 cases of beer, walk past her, she's not going to do anything about it, and get in my car and drive off. Even if she called the police, they might not even show up. And if they showed up, what do you think they're going to do? Let's get a CIS team out here, let's get fingerprints, and you got video cameras, let's get the video cameras, and we'll identify this guy. And even if they knew who I was, you think they knock at my door? Hey, James Yohe, get out here. We know you've got the beer. Put your hands up. They wouldn't do squat to me. I'd get away with it and drink the beer. I've never been on a beer run. It's not because I'm afraid of getting caught. I just told everybody I'm not. The reason I've never done it is because I think it's wrong. I won't steal your beer.
Right.
Those, and in economics, we call those norms. There's coercive norms. Those are rules backed by force. We typically look at the state, right? Pay your taxes is a rules backed by force. Those are the things that libertarians oftentimes looked at, and economists too. But what we're really bad at looking at are what I would call societal or voluntary norms. These are rules that are not backed by force. And that is a reason I don't steal because we have a state police force. Or is the reason I don't steal because I think it's wrong? Is the reason that I do I showed up for what I call it for the podcast and didn't go fishing is because I believe it's wrong to break a promise.
Right.
That's what the world functions on. Those types of things. Libertarianism, at least from a Rothbardian perspective, doesn't really address those things.
Right.
And I think to some degree that Hoppe is bringing those in.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I know several libertarians I don't like, and a lot of it is because I feel like they are of low character.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but I know a lot of Republicans I do like because they have high character. Yeah. And if a person is, I would rather be in a society with people of high moral character than a society of a philosophy because you agree with me philosophically. Just because you agree with me philosophically doesn't mean we can live in harmony, right?
Right.
Because okay, so we're not arguing over, like what is or what should be, but. Yeah, but there's always, but you're of low moral character. What do I want to deal with you? You don't know you don't have any amount of loyalty in your body. You're not a man of integrity. Like I don't want you on my property, like, and
right.
so.
You're a libertarian, but get the hell out.
Yeah, exactly. Who cares if you're a libertarian? You're worthless. I mean, and so. When you there's absolutely that aspect when it comes to dealing in real life. I've said it multiple times that if you look at modern society, I choose to live out here. Out in the middle, not in the middle of nowhere, but I have 9 acres. I have chickens, and I'm looking at getting goats, and I kind of do my own thing. I'm not right on top of my neighbors. The town closest to me is like 2,000 people. I choose to live in this environment because I lived in Houston for 30 years and I can't stand that place.
Mhm.
Right? You have to, you're going to go to the places where you feel like you can live your life to the best, to your fullest extent. And you're going to surround yourself with people that assist you in living your life to the greatest extent. And just because somebody, philosophically believes or agrees with Rothbard, which that's another story all in itself. A lot of these guys, they read, "Do you hate the state?" And that's it. That's all they ever read, and it's like, okay, yeah, because I hate something. And it's like, it's not enough to be against something. You have to be for something.
Right.
What are you for?
Yeah. And just bare bones Rothbardianism. Are you for anything? I think there's some things in there, but Hoppe's putting more things in there to be for.
Right.
And take a libertarian. There are heroin addicts, like we said, who are libertarians. I don't want to be around them. I don't want to go to their house and open the front door and see them laying on the ground in puddles of their own excrement and say, "Oh, hey, libertarian. Hey, dude, come on, man, let's get up and go out and have a party."
Right.
I think that's kind of silly. Plus, if you think about it, what most people think about these things isn't very important. The guy down here at the apartment complex off the campus here, is he a libertarian? I don't even care.
Yeah.
I don't know. What I care about is he honest, right? Does he fulfill his promises? If he says, "Hey, I'm gonna come by and help you move Thursday," does he show up on Thursday?
Right.
Right. And you and I both know, we know libertarians that do that, but we also know a lot of libertarians that say, "Yep, I'll be there on Thursday," and they're not there.
Yeah.
And that's not, I don't think that that's conclusive to friendship. I think libertarianism suffered through one, exposure to Rand a lot. I think that this idea that we're all individualistic, living only for our own wants and needs and goals, and shouldn't really focus much on others, I think is ridiculous. That's not a road to a good person. Right? You have a podcast, you have listeners, you have people, you depended on me to be here.
Yeah.
Right? You might have made a mistake, but
we're good.
Might be one of your biggest mistakes, but
not the biggest. I don't release the biggest mistakes.
It might be. You never know. I still got a couple more minutes. You never know. I might just get you in trouble. But I could have gone fishing, right?
Yeah.
And I said, no, I don't care about the fact that he's got listeners and he's got a podcast and people are depending on me to do this. So I did it. Right. The paycheck's not that big, right?
No.
Oh,
no.
Damn, I was hoping for like $5,000 or something.
Oh.
But I got 5 kids.
I wish I could. I have 5 kids too. So.
Do you really? Congratulations. Yep. They're a blessing. You have to say that. They're a blessing.
They are a blessing.
Yeah. And
they're also making me old.
Okay. Oh yeah. I'm only 24. They can't see me, but gosh, man, if you looked at me, you'd be like, "Oh my gosh, that guy's like older than dirt. What happened to him?" But yeah, those are the types of things. Would I like for somebody to be a libertarian? Sure. Yeah. For everybody to be a libertarian, life would be better. But most people aren't. But they do the things that you and I want them to do. They take care of their families. They They fulfill their obligations. They put a roof over their kids and wife and kids, or husband and kids' head. They love and adore their families. Those things are probably more important than, these governmental coercive norms. We find ways around them. We're pretty good at that.
Right.
But what we can't do is find ways around these other things. And I think that those are what societies are actually built of. I think those are things that civilizations are actually built on. And I think those are the things that make you prosperous. I don't think we could go to, say, I've never been there, but I've heard there's a place in Africa where they don't have a word for promise. There's no such thing as a promise.
Really?
I don't want to live there. I don't want to implement libertarian policies there.
Right.
Right? I mean, what would happen if the stores opened and people promised to show up to work and no one showed up to work?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be very prosperous.
Right.
Places where your word didn't mean anything, right? You give me X number of dollars, and on Thursday, I'll have, this much product there available for you to put on your store shelves. And if people just, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Here's your money back. They didn't even give you your money back. They're not ripping you off, right? Oh, I didn't do it. Here's your money back. What'd you rather have, money or the product on your shelf? The product on your shelf, right? So you can sell it and keep your customers and stay in business.
Right.
What would the world be like if people followed libertarian ethics, but their word didn't mean anything?
Right.
And I think a lot of libertarians get into that. And I think a lot of libertarians get involved with this Randian ideal that, we're this individualistic person who only cares about doing great things. And most of us don't do great things. We're not Howard Rourke's. I'm not a Howard Rourke. I wish maybe I used to wish I was. I got kind of fell into it too. But I think I'd rather be a marginal father. Slightly above marginal spouse, than not be those things and be Howard Rourke. I think that I would rather, know that people are going to be helped that need help. Not everyone.
Right.
It's not coerced. I think it's a good thing if someone said, hey, I saw this guy and, he lost his job and he's about to lose his house and I made his house payment. I don't think that's a sin. I think that's a damn good thing to do. Those are the types of people that I might want to be around.
Yeah.
You never know. I might lose my job someday.
Right.
And I might need some help.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather be around people that did that. And I certainly would like to be able to help somebody out like that someday. So I think those are kind of some of the problems. That, and then the other one I wanted to add too is and this was probably will get me fired. Might get me in trouble with you. And that's religion.
Mm-hmm.
I think that most libertarians are, and not all, I don't want to say most because I've never counted. I'm going to say that there are a lot. A lot of libertarians are hostile to Christianity and God.
Right.
They hate them.
Mm-hmm. How
do you hate something you don't believe in? Is one of my problems.
Well, they're not atheists. They're anti-theist, which is a different thing. They're against theism. They don't disbelieve in theism. They're just against it. Yeah. Which is a completely, that took me a long time to figure out, because for a long time I've just called myself agnostic, because I just don't know. Like it's like that's a lot to take in, you know. Like I read a lot of stuff on religion, and I still, when somebody asks me, "Are you a Christian?" I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. Like I don't know how to square that circle. I'm actually doing a podcast with some friends here in a bit about Christianity and libertarianism.
Yeah. A lot of the things we just talked about, keeping your word and all these other things, I mean, where does that come from? Where does the whole idea of science come from? It comes from Christianity. And that is because Christianity, we think of it as just faith. Okay. Oh, he has faith. He doesn't.
Right.
Right. It isn't. It is actually, and I think this is where, a lot more work needs to be done. It's actually cosmology. It's more than that. It's where did the universe come from? What is it like? Is it ordered? Those things you can't know. You cannot know that the universe is ordered. Today, I almost dropped my cell phone. That would be bad, right? Good thing this isn't my furniture. Right? Yesterday I dropped this and it fell and hit my desk. Today it fell and hit my desk. How does any of that imply that it's going to happen tomorrow?
Right.
It doesn't. It doesn't. These are just, in what we learn from Hoppe, these are just synthetic a priori propositions, right? Mm-hmm. Or knowledge, right? That when I dropped this, it hit the desk today and it did it yesterday. Mm-hmm. Okay. It is metaphysics and theory and all these other things that come into play when we say, okay, I know it's going to do that tomorrow. Why is the universe ordered? What's the reason for that? How could that happen, right? Those rules themselves, where did they come from? They couldn't have created themselves. They had to have come from something prior to all of that. And when we look at cosmologies and world religions, which one stands out? Which one says that one man can't own another man? Which one says that that the universe is created and ordered? And why? How do we even explain how we got here? Right? Christianity does that. Mm-hmm. Okay. And there's a great book, and this is probably going to get me in trouble. I just started reading, and it's by E. Michael Jones, who a lot of people don't like. And he basically points to the fact that Christianity is more than just a religion. It's a cosmology. It's you had the Greeks, right? We think of them as being polytheistic, but the Greek philosophers, by the time of Plato, Socrates and Aristotle, they kind of come to the conclusion that there was a nous, a mind, right? A transcendent mind that created the universe, right? But they couldn't figure out certain things like why, right? Aristotle's unmovable mover was perfect, omniscient. What did he care? He didn't need us. A god would not need us. It's nous. Yeah. Well, why? Why did he create us? Why are we here? And Christianity shows that, if you look at John's gospel, and there's other people that pointed this out, but I'm specifically quoting this, talking about this E. Michael Jones book, points out that it is only through what the Greeks called logos. And that's a word that has just an infinite number of definitions that we can't even understand as English speakers. Right. That and the way I like to think of that is that in this perfect mind, what does a perfect mind have? It has perfect logic, it has perfect ideas, it's perfect, everything comes from is perfect. Right. Well, when you have a nice thought, what happens? You love that thought. Well, the nous has this perfect thought, the logos, and the perfect logic and everything about it. And that becomes the second person of the Trinity. And then the love between the Father and the Son takes on a being of itself in the Trinity, and the third person, the Holy Spirit. And that the world, the universe, everything is created through, for, and by Christ, the Logos. And this gives us this idea that the universe is ordered. You have to have that in order to function in the universe and to study science. Right. That we as Christians, if you look at Aquinas and St. Albert the Great, who sort of rediscovered Aristotle and brought it back to the West, that the truth is good, that we can use logic and reason to come to discover things about reality that we get from Aristotle. And that by learning about reality, creation, we learn more about the creator, the divine. So one, science is good. Anything we can find out that's true is good. And we value that in Western civilization. If I told you something, say a theory, and you didn't like it, first thing come to your mouth is like, that's not true.
Right.
Right? We value it. And if you were to lie, to deliberately or mistakenly say something that didn't match reality, that was not true, you are in essence doing something bad because you're misrepresenting creation and thus the divine itself. And we're seeing what happens when this is lost. Right? I don't know. I live in a small town. It's not as small as yours, but I look out and I watch TV or I look on Twitter and I see these people rampaging and setting fire to San Francisco or Chicago or whatever, and saying, oh, we got to do all these horrible, stupid, crazy things. And I'm like, has the world gone mad?
Yeah.
I see all of these things that governments have done in my reasonable lifetime that haven't worked and don't work. And I'm like, why are people attaching themselves to this? Because they've lost a base. You go and look at what's going on with COVID. Now I don't wear a mask. I won't. And I look at the CDC and they said, well, it was bad for a mask. Now it's good for a mask. I got my mask
right here.
There you go.
Here's my mask.
Yeah. And now it's bad. Now the paper masks don't work. What is that, science? Or is that them directing what they're calling science to what the powers that pay for the science want? Yeah. And I think it's the latter. I think we're going away from this idea that telling the truth is good in and of itself, and that telling a lie, whether it's intentional or unintentional, they're both lies, they both result in the same outcome, right? Are somehow good if they coincide with the interest of certain individuals who pay for the science and popularize it and all these other things.
Right.
I think they've hijacked science, and I think that it's absurd. I'm sorry I went on for a long time. I apologize.
No, you're fine. You really like triggered something in me, because I've noticed that the people I know that read Hoppe and that are like, okay, like, I should have discovered Hoppe years ago, and now that I'm discovering them, I'm realizing like the error of my thought process through libertarian philosophy. I've noticed that as they get more involved in Hoppe, they turn more into a Christian direction with their thought process. And I'm wondering, given like your experience with Hoppe and how long you've been aware of his thought process, his writings and his philosophy, what is it about where he's coming from that leads people in this direction? Is he, I haven't seen this in the few things I've read of his, but is he explicitly religious, or is this something, is there just something in the way that he presents the ideas that triggers like the religious, more traditional thought? Because the something we discussed prior to recording is that it's like this, we have this split in libertarianism right now, and a lot of it is libertine versus traditional. And it seems like the people that read Hoppe fall much more on the side of tradition, much more on the side of religion and Christianity.
It's weird. Now that you mention it, I never thought about it like that. to the best of my knowledge, Dr. Hoppe was never a religious man.
I'm
I
not
think-
ignoring you. I have a
Oh no, you're
visitor.
fine. No.
My dog has raided my office.
Oh,
See?
okay. Well,
Look at
I
that
like
big
your
head.
dog. I wish
Look
my
at that
dog.
big
was-
old head.
That's
Look at
a
that
nice
big
dog.
old motherfucker.
All right. But oh no, I'm pro dog. But Rothbard was an agnostic. Now we think maybe he may have converted on near deathbed type thing.
I've never heard that. I've always heard he was an
Well,
atheist. So
agnostic. He was never an atheist. that I
okay,
know of.
okay.
When he died, it's a traditional Catholic order, the SSP-10 did a mass for him. And traditional Catholics, you don't do a mass for someone who wasn't Catholic. That's the only. Now I learned I'm Catholic, but I was baptized and my family was secular. We went to church on Christmas or Easter sometimes. So I was not raised in it. But I learned more about my faith from Rothbard than I learned anywhere else. Hoppe, I actually have argued with Hoppe a little bit, Dr. Hoppe, Professor Hoppe, I should say, a little bit about God, that there was a God. Not argued, discussed, I guess. Make it sound like I could argue with him. Not capable. The only thing that I ever did good around him was shut up and listen. But I, to the best of my knowledge, he was never a practicing Christian. I believe his family may have been Lutheran back in Germany, but no, I think, I mean, I have my view on this. I think it's because he's moving towards the truth. And I think that when you come to the truth, I'm a Thomist. I think that theology and science are perfectly compatible with each other. I mean, that's the only thing I could really give you an answer on.
Yeah.
I was not a religious guy when I met him. I was not. I did not go to mass. I was not even. I didn't take my first Holy Communion until I was 30. I was in Auburn. I was already gone.
Okay.
But no, to the best of my knowledge, he's not a religious man.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
I've just noticed that with a lot of the guys I know that talk a lot about Hoppe. It seems like here, especially in the last year, religion, even with me, and I considered myself agnostic for a long time. Now I'm just kind of like, I don't even know what to say. I don't know. But I find it that I look around and I see so much going on around me that seems more spiritual than it does material. And I'm like, okay, maybe if I want to fight this, maybe I need to look back and figure out like the spiritual side of things. So I've noticed that's been a big, I hate to say use the word trend when talking about that subject, but that has been something that is appearing in the more Hoppe reading side of the libertarian sphere.
Yeah.
Is religion is becoming a very big topic. And it's something that I've even done podcasts on it. Like I'm doing one today. It's just something that's popped up, and it's like, okay, this is something we definitely need to talk about here.
And the thing is, whether we like it or not, we still live in a Christian society. We still talk to each other within the framework of Christianity. As I said before, science, the fundamental precepts of science are all, or at least a large number of them, and I would say all, come from Christianity and its view of the universe.
Yeah.
Right? That it was created, and that it was created with rules, and that these rules, are going to be there tomorrow. That the world isn't just going to whatever hole, gravity isn't just going to give up tomorrow and the Earth's going to float apart.
Mm-hmm.
Those things come to us from this view. A lot of the cultural norms that we talked about, right? Like keeping a promise. You don't have to keep a promise, but we generally do. If I had not shown up to your show, right? I went fishing and you told your listeners, hey, I had a nice show planned for you. I had an idiot coming on. I was going to make fun of him, but, that's what my wife thinks.
That's what all wives think. It's not just
yeah.
you.
Oh, really? Thought I was special.
In her eyes only.
Yeah. Instead, the guy went fishing, right?
Mm.
I mean, no one could beat me up, but all of your listeners would say, what a jerk, man. Why would you? I'm glad he didn't hear him talk because the guy can't show up. He'd rather go fishing than fulfill his obligation. He's a bad guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we would all say. If I told you, oh, I believe that tomorrow the Earth is going to come apart because gravity will stop working at 6:45, right?
Yeah.
So you're an idiot. You're a fool.
Yeah.
No one would believe you. The sun's going to come up tomorrow.
Right.
We accept all of those things. We accept them all.
Mm.
And those are in part because of Christianity and tradition also from the past. But I think that if you look at the miracles of Christianity, and I'm not going to just talk, I'm not talking about turning water into wine or those types of things. Just look at the West, all right? At the fall of the Roman Empire, it's a backwater, if that. It's chaotic, low living standards. No one is reading or doing things. They're just trying to survive. Meanwhile, people in China and India and the Middle East are living much higher life standards, much higher levels of security, all of these other good things. And the West does some amazing things. We broke the Malthusian trap. Nowhere else has this ever happened. And this, this of course, evil. People criticize Western civilization because of slavery. Name one civilization that ever thought one man can't own another man and gave it up. There's only one.
Yeah.
Western civilization.
Yeah.
Not only did Western civilization give up slavery, which everyone else in the world and probably lots of people across the world believe is a natural state for certain people.
Mm-hmm.
We went around the world and made them give it up. Wherever the British Navy went, they said, hey, no more of this slavery stuff.
Right.
Right?
And what a lot of people don't realize, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to say what a lot of people don't realize. This comes directly from the writings of Paul. This was Paul's thing. Yes, Paul was telling you if you were a slave to be a good slave in the Bible, but he also went after slave owners and told them how despicable it was for them to own other human beings.
And the church, the Catholic Church.
Right.
They said, this is no good. You can't do this.
Right.
Right. And we accepted that, and we all do. Right. I mean, if I came out and I said, hey, I think slavery should be reinstated. Oh, gosh, I better not even say that as a joke. Somebody might take the sound bite and cost me my job.
I'll beep it out. I'll do that.
Oh, I'm kidding. If I came and said, oh, slavery is a good thing and people should have slaves, I would be outcast from society. You can't own another person. What are you an idiot? You can't own people.
Yeah.
Right? We don't even accept that as a reasonable idea anymore.
Right.
And how did that happen? How did all in the living standards we live in, the technology, the science? Jones points out in his book that really science starts with Western civ. It doesn't start with the Greeks. The Greeks ran into dead ends. It doesn't, the Muslims, the Chinese, the Indians, they never had anything remotely similar to what we called science in Western civilization. And nowhere have they gotten the results that we've gotten. Just imagine yourself maybe, I don't know, you're maybe same age as I am, but I grew up as a kid in the 70s. Imagine going back to being 10 years old and imagine that you and I are talking on a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
And
even 20 years ago.
yeah,
it
I'm
was-
seeing a picture of you. It's like the Jetsons,
yeah.
right? And go back 100 years ago, and our grandparents would be lucky if they could talk to each other on a scratchy phone.
Right.
And it would be so prohibitively expensive that nothing like this could ever be done, let alone recorded.
Yeah. I heard
How did that happen?
I heard a funny joke the other day, and the guy said, if you were to go back 100 years in time, what would you tell the people of the past to blow their mind? And he said, I would tell them that in my pocket I held a device that held the totality of the world's information. I use it to argue with strangers and watch cat videos.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's.
I mean, we take something like that for such granted. I mean, imagine if, Aristotle or Plato or Newton or somebody like that had something compared to what we have in our pockets, what they could have done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Watched a lot of cat videos too.
Yeah. Yeah. They might like cats. I don't know. So I want to, we've been going over an hour. I kind of want to I want to finish kind of on a fun note if we could. Do you have any fun stories of your time studying under Hans?
Oh gosh. I wasn't prepared for this one. I'll admit it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I just, he's very funny. You'd be surprised.
He seems like has a dry sense of humor.
It's very
That's the way-
dry.
yeah, that's the way he comes across to me.
But he's hilarious. He can tell you something that will just get you in stitches. Trying to think. You got me here. I will tell you this. I've had many professors in my life. I never looked to any of them like I looked to Rothbard and Hoppe. They were more than just professors. When Rothbard passed away, it broke my heart. I mean, I was sad.
Yeah.
And like you would be sad if a relative died, not like, if someone you needed or used or whatever died.
Right.
And, we all felt the same way about Hoppe. I mean, it was more than just, everybody thinks he's this Teutonic guy. I mean, it was, we genuinely liked him.
Yeah.
A lot. Do anything for him, if he asked us. If he said, hey, I'm moving, we'd all been over there an hour before he asked us to come over there and move, I'm trying to think of something funny. I can't come up with anything.
That's all right.
It stands out, but he's very funny. He did, do almost anything for you if it's within his ability to do so. He's not this Teutonic monster that people think he is. Definitely not a Nazi. So that one's got to go out the side right now. And I would say that the thing that's most impressive about him is that I believe he's relentlessly after the truth.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's anything else that influences him.
Yeah.
I think that that's his goal. Now you could argue and say maybe he's made a mistake here or made a mistake here. I wouldn't. I could, but I honestly believe that.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you still keep in touch with him?
I see him every once in a while. He's off in Turkey and Europe and stuff like that right now.
Right.
And I think I told you I had 5 kids. I kind of, I guess going to conferences and things like that sort of became a more of a hobby of mine, just because I had so many things to do and things like that. But I think the last time I saw him, he was in New York. I saw him in New York, and whenever we see, whenever I see him, I'm always trying to have a beer together or something. But,
Awesome. What do you are you still writing?
I am. I just finished a paper on a libertarian theory of criminal justice. And I'm getting ready. I got that ready to publish. And then I'm working on a review of this E. Michael Jones book, The Ultimate Foundations of Reality. I can't give you the title right now at the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
And along the lines of what we talked about with religion, I'm going to work on something on that. But I've also written for, wrote Fefschrift for Hans and a couple other things. I'm starting to get back into it again now.
Do you have your own website that people can find your stuff, or?
No, I'm the world's worst self-promoter.
You're probably as bad as I am, because
I'm worse. You have a podcast.
I do. I have a podcast, and I am horrible about promoting it.
You seem good to me. I don't have a podcast.
So, all right. Well, I'll try to find some of your writing, and I'll put them up in the show notes so people can read some of your stuff. And we'll definitely keep me informed on the new stuff you have coming out, and I'll make sure it gets put out there and people see it.
I will definitely do that, and thank you. I enjoyed it very much.
All right, man. Well, I really appreciate you, James. It was great meeting you. It was great having a chat, and we'll definitely do this again.
Oh, anytime.
All right.
Appreciate it.
I'm going to stop the recording.
Said you're just a slave. All your good intentions took you to your grave. Your pride is how they killed you. With the flag you wave just like a fool. They promised you a mountain, gifted you a stone. They demanded that you throw it into your neighbor's home, and then seize all that they worked for and give it to the throne just like a tool. Well, as we all just stand in line and glorify new ways of being cruel, it seems to me humanity is not something that they're teaching us in school. They dumbed us down all around, propaganda, their pollution. They set a cage up on the stage, a facade for all solution. They build a wall, block them all from this mental institution. It's insane. Now they're writing their own rule books and they're crossing all their T's. They're fashioning their people to all wear beggars' knees. If you want a clean drink of water, well, you must say pretty please. It's all a game. As we all just stand in line and justify these crimes done in our names, it seems to me authority and tyranny are both one and the same. Sacrificial right, just like we should. Cause this world needs a cleansing to burn away the shame and destroy all the remnants of those who are to blame. And we'll stack them up like cordwood, watch them sizzle on the flames for good. Well, as we all just stand in line waiting for some kind of Robin Hood, our liberty will never be until our right to freedom is understood. Thank